In this video, I'm going to teach you the individual meanings of the suit of swords, and we're starting right now. Hi, my name is Robert Stanford, and I've been reading Tarot for over 30 years. If you're interested in learning Tarot and other Tarot-related stuff, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I publish videos every week. Click the link in the description below or go to stanfordtarot.com. You should also pick up my e-book. It's very affordable. It's very detailed. Everything that I go over in these videos is included in there and a little bit more. That e-book also gets updated for free. Very good investment on your path to learning Tarot. The Ace of Swords. An idea, a seed, the beginning of a 10-card cycle of swords. Possible news or message that may be rather sharp. This is the suit of conflict, struggle, and war. This is a dangerous journey to embark on, an arduous quest. There may be apprehensiveness on the part of the individual associated with this card, and it would be foolish of them not to be so. There exists the need for caution and foresight, yet the individual can fight this 10-card cycle of swords war. A need to keep the eye on the prize. A change of some sort is indicated. These ideas are generally born from previous 10-card cycles of swords that have come to conclusions for good or bad. The Ace of Swords inverted. Too much haste affecting the effort applied to intended action regarding this seed of a new 10-card cycle of swords. Faulty foundations are already being laid if this 10-card cycle of swords proceeds. It will more than likely result in inversions as opposed to upright card positions. There exists a need to identify the weak spots that are hiding in current plans. Alternatives are going to be needed and at the ready to prevent future inversions. There may be someone attempting to hold things up or impede upon the progress of the individual. Court cards that appear in the Celtic Cross spread would be good suspects of just who these people might be to the querent. There exists a need to realistically consider the obstacles that would inevitably rise if current ideas are put into action. The Two of Swords. The decision between two paths, one of which would be best discovered by a pros and cons list. Each option represents a 10-card cycle of swords, and an inventory should be taken to determine the obstacles independent of any respected rewards to be gained down the line, resulting from either one or both of these 10-card cycles of swords being taken. Both of these 10-card cycles of swords may be blended much more deeply and likely than the 10-card cycles of pentacles would be. There is a high likelihood that one of the 10-card cycles of swords will have a higher probability of producing more inverted cards. Other cards within the Celtic Cross spread may lend themselves to illuminating this more. There now exists the need to take a step back and allow for a cooling off period. Perhaps also there exists a need to be more objective when considering each choice together as well as separate. The Two of Swords inverted. Same as it is upright, yet more is known by the individual and the choices are concurrently happening. Two 10-card cycles of swords are going to transpire if an immediate choice is not made. Neither is very desirable to the individual. Both of these 10-card cycles of swords will have tendencies toward inversions, yet one will have less than the other. There exists a need to attempt to buy time for a cooling off period, even though procrastination could have brought the individual to this point in which a decision is necessitated sooner than later. All may not be seen or known, and it is not a good time to confide in anyone too early in a relationship. As concerned with this suit of swords, there is a need to be sure before signing on the dotted line. The Three of Swords. A severe fight has caused a separation. Patience ran out on the side of the individual that this card applies to. The individual feels sadness and guilt regarding the situation and finds it hard to let go. Usually this applies to family and relationships that have previously been well established, therefore tending to hurt even more. Possible loss of a child as an abortion, miscarriage, illness, or accident. It would be a very young child at the time of death. Depending upon other cards in the Celtic Cross spread, it could more lean toward representing a separation caused by circumstance rather than the severe fight mentioned above. The Three of Swords inverted. Same as the non-inversion, yet not so dramatic in the cause and nature of the separation that is the subject of the situation described by this card. There is a preoccupation with this situation leading to disorganization in the individual's affairs. Domestic matters have fallen to the wayside during this time of separation. There is also a tendency for the individual to lash out prematurely without sufficient forethought, since this individual will be thinking more about the separation than anything else. The Four of Swords. Banished from any affairs for reasons other cards in the Celtic Cross spread will illuminate, as well as what these affairs might be if still ambiguous to the querent. This is a time of forced convalescence for the purpose of recuperation, a time to prepare as things that are happening just outside the sphere of influence of the individual or someone affiliated with the individual is transpiring without the direct knowledge of the querent. With all of this said, obstacles are being resolved at this present time, whether known by the querent or not. Four of Swords inverted. Back into the swing of things. After a convalescence as the upright placement of this card that was not sufficiently taken advantage of, if taken at all. This is a time to be cautious as energy levels for the individual are running severely low and confusion is at an all-time high when considering the opportunities as are provided generally by others. It is difficult to make thoughtful decisions at this time. Within the 10-card cycle of swords, by the nature of the suit of swords, there will be struggle and conflict. It is difficult to take decisive action, as well as it is known by the individual that they will likely result in confrontations, whether they be necessary or not. It can indicate, depending on other cards appearing in the Celtic Cross spread, problems, quarrels, and unrest, generally in the workplace or extended social circles. This is not a good time to commit to things because the present circumstances are in so much flux that many things are outside of the control of the individual. The Five of Swords. Bad karma coming home to roost. An act of bittersweet revenge that results from the selfishness acted upon by the individual finding themselves alone. There exists a low level of sensitivity at this stage of the 10-card cycle of swords. The individual is withdrawn from being a team player, now suffering the consequences of doing so and producing negative consequences as well for others involved with the individual. A forceful approach is being taken in affairs without balance. This is causing other participants to depart the situation, resulting in abandonment. There exists the possibility of separations or divorces because of the unmitigated forces of willpower that is exerted in an authoritarian manner. It makes people depart the situation and or relationship because they have become fearful of the individual. The individual may be doing things on the sly. Best to look for court cards in the Celtic Cross spread, unless of course the querent is the one to be suspected. The Five of Swords inverted. Same as above, but earlier on with the opportunity to prevent the fallout caused by an arrogant and unfair attitude. However, if the opportunity is not seized immediately, there will be disruption, as is described above. Other cards in the reading will illuminate the situation with details, but one can rest assured that it is subverted and cloak and dagger in its drama, which this situation will surely produce. There is unfairness on the part of the individual. The Six of Swords. This is a major card of change within the 10-card cycle of swords. A milestone has been reached for good or bad, depending upon the other cards appearing in the Celtic Cross spread. Generally, this card means that the individual, being the querent or not, has been forced to leave because of having dealt unfairly with someone or a group of people. Severances have or are being made at this time. Current unpleasant situations are occurring which involve other people. The responsibility lies on the individual affiliated with this card. Only this person can make the desired changes. It can indicate a geographic relocation, even if only another room or across the street, as much as it could signify a move to another state or country altogether. This is more illuminated by other cards in the Celtic Cross spread. The Six of Swords inverted. There exists the feeling of being trapped and unable to leave a negative situation. There is a pushing against forces created that will not even so much as budge at this time. Though it is temporary, efforts beyond leaving the situation altogether are futile at this time. Plans, goals, and other indicators of intended progress or actions will not go through at this time. This is a good time to rethink approaches through those actions that are unsuccessful. At this time may work for good or bad very soon, but most likely bad. The Seven of Swords. Things will not materialize as planned, yet things will materialize. A backup plan exists and must be implemented at this time. It may be apparent that things are not working out and what is hoped for may not come to be. If this is not known, it would be due to over-optimism and at times an outright refusal to accept reality. Several distinct circumstances are coming into manifestation in very quick succession, yet this is a losing streak. Other cards in the Celtic Cross spread will illuminate the severity and nature of these materializing circumstances. A prevalence of swords in the Celtic Cross spread would indicate the severity of the circumstances appearing to the individual affiliated with this card. The Seven of Swords, inverted. Same as the card in the upright position, yet it is time to seek out some sort of counsel. Now exists an ample opportunity to implement alternate plans that are more thought out than previously. This inversion would lend itself to indicate the likelihood that a backup plan, if in existence at all, is still not much better thought out than the original plan. One can see quite clearly what others surrounding the individual are doing to them, and it is usually against that individual. The Eight of Swords. Experiencing the fallout of the full onslaught of karma in its full force. This card would best represent the individual having just lost everything after a fire, the death of a loved one, a huge emotional and life-changing loss. The individual may be in shock at this time, fearful and not yet able to make new goals, as they are generally forced to live out the 10-card cycle of swords, 9 of swords and 10 of swords respectively, that will be forthcoming. Stressful to the point that stress itself is causing problems, as well as the problems that are causing stress. Stress causing health problems as well, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, and so on. Unable to think clearly at this time. The Eight of Swords, inverted. Same as above, but after the initial shock and then eventual acceptance of the circumstances. Still not out of the woods, but somewhat recovered from the initial trauma of the life-changing situation that has already happened to the individual. Opportunities are appearing in the form of ideas and proposals, yet these may still be difficult for the individual to see clearly. The Nine of Swords. Inconsolable unhappiness pointing to the potential of the suicide of the individual affiliated with this card. Deep feelings of hopelessness, usually regarding a serious health issue, such as cancer, other types of tragedy such as hospitalizations. This card represents very sad circumstances. It is a very horrible card to show for the individual. The Nine of Swords, inverted. Same as above, but more of a darkest before the dawn aspect to the surrounding circumstances of the individual. More of the underlying situations will be known to the querent depending upon other cards appearing in the Celtic Cross spread. The Ten of Swords. The culmination of the 10-card cycle of swords for good or bad, mostly bad. All is for a loss as everything is decimated. This could be a death or the outcome of a serious health situation for the worse, such as progressing into a stage 4 cancer state physically. Long-term misfortune, yet not necessarily many, if any, inversions previously in this 10-card cycle of swords. Could also, if other cards in the Celtic Cross spread allow the inclination that there could be a divorce in the offing directly affected by this recent 10-card cycle of swords. This is just before a time of being able to leave a long and drawn-out situation. The Ten of Swords, inverted. Same as above, yet later in the process of events that this card represents. Coming into the end of the 10-card cycle of swords, coming into a new cycle. Prevalent cards of the suit of swords to the right or the center of the Celtic Cross spread will indicate if there is to be a continuation or a new situation that will be represented as the primary 10-card cycle, be it a 10-card cycle of swords or a 10-card cycle of another suit altogether. Opportunities for good or bad are now being offered on the horizon and are momentary in their speed of coming into the life of the querent. It would be wise for the querent to receive counseling if another primary 10-card cycle of swords is looking like it is going to be taking place. Usually indicates there is a vicious cycle happening.